a goalie in hockey or soccer really isn't real active, and so we reinvented games, and the Canadian Cricket Association told us how to play continuous cricket. It's a great game. From Australia, we got netball. It's a great game. So we did global studies, found out the best games, incorporated them, and got higher, cardiovascular activities, plus group work.
And if you're a hockey goalie, I guess you let your goalie skate out of the net occasionally.
Well, you don't put a goalie in. You just put a chair.
I see.
And
you eliminate the goalie.
Eliminate the goalie, and if a person develops a sharp eye, they can put it between the legs of a chair.
And hence the imagination, because you can see the kids sparking. Great ideas, brainstorming. Nobody's shut down. When do you shut them down? When do you say, when it gets chaotic, okay, enough's enough. You're all fabulous, enough's enough.
Well, I don't know if I say they're all fabulous, but one word that you said that's interesting, I never say that's good in class.
Or bad?
No, I don't do that either. If you say that's good, it's an imagination killer, because then you're going to get a whole lot of kids going over and looking at, oh, that's good, so that's what I have to do. So you say that's interesting. And when I close down the class, I just stand there, because I don't talk. I'm not a salt lick. I call it I'm not a salt lick, which means I'm not the center of attention. So when I do talk, when I do stand, when I do give instructions on how to proceed, they pay attention. I don't have discipline problems.
How do you measure, and I'm sure you have to measure at some level, how well a student is doing? Reading, writing, arithmetic, the 3 R's, the basics.
The state mandated tests, and this is so cool, because if it's like if you teach it, you learn it. So someone is making a lot of money designing these tests. So I teach the students how to design tests. So when they get ready to take a test on a certain amount of unit, they've already created tests on that unit themselves. So they can get in the mind of the test creator, and their scores are very high. When I first came to the school I'm working at, we're in the 22nd percentile. 4 years later, we were in the 94th percentile. That's the greatest increase in history. And it was all because you empower the child. And by empowering the child, you're not the center of attention. You draw on their imagination. And they have a lot of good ideas. I go, oh, that's good. Well, that's interesting. Go see where it goes. And your test scores go way up, because they're following the curriculum too.
Because you value them. You value the child. 11 traits of a good teacher. I loved your list. First one, be unsatisfied with what is.
Yep, that's very important.
This is the teacher. Be unsatisfied with what is. Best teacher is always a student?
Always.
What does it mean?
Well, the U and Art exhibit, one of the featured speakers today is going to be an art person. That person has a whole museum full of interesting and fascinating things. You walk in there and you get ideas. For example, in the early 1970s, I was in the Ottawa Museum, and on the wall were little pillows like this, designed with pastels, and they made up all these. There were hundreds and hundreds, and they made a painting out of these little pillows. So I took that idea, and I says, I can take these little pillows, and I'll make it our city. So every little pillow represents a demographic. So if you have Asians or Russians, whatever you have them young, you have a male, female, you'd have an entire city done on a wall for City Hall, all done like that. And you walk in the art museum, you get your ideas every single place. It's quite amazing what you can do. I'd lost my suitcase. What a surprise.
What a surprise.
Yeah. Air Canada owes me a free trip. Anyway, oh, never mind, I'll just walk. Anyway.
Why harmony? Never mind, we'll talk about that later.
And the key concept was that as I was going there, I says, how would they find my suitcase? So I developed an idea where the kids find somebody in history, and they would create his suitcase or her suitcase. And from those clues, someone else identify whose suitcase it was. So you'd have, without names in it. So you'd have a passport where the person was born, little bits of an editorial written about him, and so you'd have this suitcase. So now the kids are thinking both inductively and deductively about something, and then they give it to someone else to solve the puzzle. And kids love to solve these quizzes and puzzles. It's not one of the computer games, but it's more fun for the kids. And that's what it does. You turn negatives to positives. This goes on all the time, because I can't be bothered with teaching. Just let them learn.
You just like to have some fun.
Yeah.
High expectations. You encourage risk-taking, obviously.
Yeah.
All good teachers encourage risk-taking.
For sure. There's no reason why a student has to be bound to a textbook or the curriculum. If they would like to do something beyond that, to give you an idea, one of my students said, how come our test scores are good. So I said, I don't know, go find out. You know, so he made up all the subject matter by doing my little special research projects that are real cool. But anyway, getting back to that, he ended up finding out that there's certain size communities where English prospers. Any 30,000 population city to 10 to 30,000 population, your English scores will be higher. If the community is under 10,000, the people who don't speak English tend to sit by themselves and click up. If the city starts getting over 30 to 50,000, there's enough of them to click up and not have to go. So to go to the grocery store in a 30,000 population, you have to speak different languages. You have to learn English. But if you get into bigger cities, you can live in a certain area and you only have to speak that certain language. So the English scores are higher on their own.
Who knew?
It was really, and the kid got it published. I have the kids published work.
That's great.
Yeah.
Who knew? Alan Haskvitz, our guest. He's a teacher, a teacher's teacher.
Makeup services for Studio 4 provided by Beauty Mark, now at 3 locations in Vancouver. For more information, please visit www.beautymark.ca.
Catering for Studio 4 provided by Cafe de Medici, specializing in traditional Northern Italian cuisine for over 25 years. Located on Robson Street in the heart of downtown Vancouver, just off Burrard.
Hi, I'm Nellie Furtado and I'm supporting the TLC, the Land Conservancy.
TLC, the Land Conservancy of British Columbia, is committed to protecting special places for all Canadians.
Help them protect beautiful, special places everywhere, for everyone.
Once we got over the shock of Kevin being born without his left hand, we contacted the Warramps and they said, would you mind if we set you up with another parent who has gone through a similar
I
thing?
phoned Karen the next day. We were on the phone for a long time. Matching mothers is a good thing right from day one.
This moment brought to you by Harmony Airways.
Brought to you by Sunkissed Ester C, Soft Chews Vitamin C Supplement, a delicious, chewy way to get vitamin C that helps maintain healthy bones and teeth.
Alan Haskvitz is visiting Studio 4. He is a multi-award-winning teacher who is visiting Vancouver for the Imagination in Education Conference, putting the I in imagination. 11 traits of a good teacher. First 2, be unsatisfied with what is, high expectations, accept errors.
Yeah.
Have to accept errors, encourage risk-taking. Number 3, create independency. That's not so easy.
Yeah, that's essentially the most important part of a teacher. If you see a lot of students lined up at a teacher's desk, either the teacher didn't properly announce the assignment, or this teacher wants to be the center and is afraid to let the kids go. And you just have to let them make mistakes. I mean, that's what school is for, making mistakes. So when you get out, you know how to handle mistakes. We all make mistakes. It's what divorce is. Oh, never mind. Okay.
That's true. But no, but you want a child to say, I have the ability to figure this out. I can use you as my guide, but you're only my guide, and I may know more than you.
And sometimes they do. There's amazing, every student is tapped and has a whole capacity of having knowledge that you have no idea about. I was talking to a student that told me a great story about Newfoundland and told about a conference on imagination. I'm going to be telling that story. It's so cool. And Outport in Newfoundland is a place that really does not have road access, so it's just boat access. And so when the mailboat came by, this father came up and said, here, give us this to a tailor. And they put a little box and a captain said, okay. When he got to St. John's, the capital of Newfoundland, he got in, walked to the tailor and said, here, this is from so-and-so. And he opened it up, and there was a string with a bunch of knots in it. And a note said, this is my daughter's measurements. Make me a wedding dress for her.
Really?
Yep. That cool application of imagination. Why would they have an outport? Why would they have a ruler? They make things by sight, essentially, and it fits, and whatever wood you have, it doesn't have to be. It's whatever materials you have. Ruler is really artificial, just an agreement.
Sure.
You know, and so the concept was that. And so there you have applied imagination, and it wouldn't have been done if the teacher said, no, you have to measure it.
We don't have anything to measure it
Measure
with.
with.
If you take something away from a child, they will invent something to replace it, from the time they're little.
Yes. A child will play with the box more than they will play with the toy. You have to force them to play with the toy. You have to make it flashy or gimmicky, et cetera, et cetera. And you are taking their imagination away. In the older days, which might not have been better, but there was more imagination going on because, let's say for baseball, okay, first base is that rock, my shirt is second base, like this, and the kids would improvise and make their own fields. Now they have uniforms, everything is formal, there's no imagination left. Even the ball, sometimes you had to create your own ball. Now it has to be an official baseball versus some wine corks wrapped in duct tape. So you encourage problem solving and imagination go hand in hand.
If you visit a refugee camp,
yes, classic.
It's classic because when you see the children play, they don't have the official balls and they don't have the fancy uniforms, but they still manage to play games.
When I was going to school, we would play with my brown lunch sack with the lunch in it. That would be we'd throw that around.
When you didn't like your lunch.
This is why you learn to appreciate food.
Independency, it's
and it builds self-esteem.
It builds self-esteem. Here is the problem. You find the answer. You alone can find the answer.
And you're going to make mistakes because, like after lunch, there was no ball to play with. So,
good teacher, knowledgeable, passion for the subject. Passion for the subject.
Yeah.
Your subject, any subject. Contagious curiosity, I call it.
You seldom go anywhere without thinking of ideas all the time. Just to give you an idea, I was visiting a museum, and the museum had an artifact. It was a box like this and a string and a little box. And so I said, what is this from? And it was made by the people in Fogo Island. They got their first engine for a boat, the first one. They didn't have any tools. They didn't have anything. So what happened was a part broke. They didn't know what it was called. They couldn't write down what it's called. They couldn't fix it. So when the person went to the mainland, they made a wood mock-up of it and take this to the manufacturer. The manufacturer got it, took a look at it, put the tools together, sent it back to them, and they were able to repair it.
Sure. Pattern makers is how they make things. First they make it in wood often, and then they build a big ship. So knowledgeable, passion for the subject, new ideas. There's a bumper sticker. I don't know if it's on your car. This teacher stops for new ideas.
That's a good one. I try to say that I support the local sheriff and police the way I drive. I use everything I can.
You do?
Yeah, I test drive vehicles. In fact, we're doing a new Toyota Camry test today, this week.
Is that for your car column, your family car column?
Yeah, if you Google or whatever you want, called the Car Family, you'll see our reviews of every type of vehicle. It's from a family standpoint, because there's no other review that's done from a mother, father, son and daughter aspect. So we're doing the new Toyota Corolla 4-cylinder. It's very nice, and then later on we'll do the hybrid to see the difference between the two. So it's really nice.
It's a family affair.
And what happens is the kids find out I'm doing this if they have a natural inclination for that. The kids really like that. So I went to an organization, an automobile organization, and they agreed that I could write a math book for kids that are having trouble with math, and it'll be distributed free to every child in the United States. And that'll be coming out next year.
Really?
Yep.
So your family literally has a job.
Yep, the Car Family.
The Car Family has a job, writes syndicated columns. Somebody should pick that up in Canada.
Oh, I was hoping they would, because it's really interesting. It's not like how fast it goes, or it's just how usable the vehicle is. And of course, it is hard times around the Car Family when we get a car that's like a Bentley, It's who can hide the keys the best. So there's a lot of dissension in the family.
And how can we afford a Bentley? Let's figure this out. Dad?
A lot of people will actually sleep in the car to make sure that they get the car for the next day. Only when it gets close to E for empty does it become Dad's car.
I see.
That's the key.
Well, that's smart. You raise smart ones.